Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. What's the difference between someone who starts strong and someone who stays strong? It's not luck. It's not talent. It's what they do every single day. See, being unstoppable isn't a one-time thing. It's a habit. Today, I'm giving you 7 daily habits that, if practiced consistently, will make you mentally tougher, more focused, and absolutely unstoppable. Let me tell you, if there's one moment in your day that holds the most power, it's the very beginning. That first slice of time before the world starts pulling at you from every direction, that's where your edge is built. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. You don't need to wake up at 4 a.m. and run a marathon. But you do need to own your morning like a pro. And I mean, own it on purpose, with intention, on with discipline. Most people open their eyes and the first thing they do is grab their phone before they've even had a full breath. They've already given their mind away to emails, to messages, to bad news, to everyone else's priorities. You start in reaction mode and you stay in it. That's the fast lane to burnout, distraction, and a scattered day. But if you can claim just 15-30 minutes of your morning for yourself, no phone, no chaos on just you change your whole energy. When I say own your morning, I mean starting at 0 on your terms. That might look different for everyone. Maybe for you it's silence, maybe it's prayer, maybe it's journaling, stretching, or just sitting with a hot cup of coffee and thinking clearly for once. Whatever it is, make it yours. Make it consistent. This is the time you reinforce who you are before the world starts telling you who to be on. And here's the truth. Most people don't realize your morning isn't about productivity. It's about positioning. You're positioning your mindset you're positioning your emotions. You're choosing calm over chaos, clarity over confusion. You're saying, I'm running the show today, not my notifications. And my schedule, me. Because when you own your morning, you stop chasing the day. You lead on. I want you to think about the kind of person you want to be. Not 5 years from now, not next month, today. How would that person wake up? What would they do first? What wouldn't they allow in their first hour? That's your blueprint. You don't need to do 1,000 things you just need to do the right 1 or 2 things consistently. And listen, it's not about perfection. Some mornings you're going to feel tired some mornings are going to be messy. That's life. What matters is the habit, the showing up. You're not just getting out of bed. You're stepping into your identity. Every time you choose to start with purpose, you build a little more momentum on that. And that momentum compounds over time. It turns into something unstoppable. Owning your morning is a form of self-respect. It's you telling yourself, I matter enough to start strong. I matter enough to create space before I respond to the world. And when you live that way, people feel it on. You walk into rooms differently. You make decisions more clearly. You become someone who's not easily thrown off. That's power. That's presence. Now, will there be days when life hits you early? Absolutely. Kids need something. Work emergency shows up. Something throws off the routine. That's fine. That's real. But if you've built the habit, those days won't derail you because you've got an internal baseline. You've trained yourself to reset. You know how to find your footing fast because you've practiced it. This isn't about motivation, it's about rhythm. Systems beat moods. You don't wait to feel like owning your morning. You decide to do it, and the feeling follows. That's what separates the consistent from the chaotic. So here's what I want to leave you with. Don't let the world meet you before you've met yourself. Take that time, use it wisely, own it completely, because how you start isn't everything. But it sure sets the tone for everything else. There's a promise you make every single day before you talk to anyone before you check anything, before the outside world even knows you're awake. It's not loud, it's not written down, but it's there and how you handle that promise changes everything. It's the promise you make to yourself. Maybe it's I'll go to the gym this morning. Maybe it's going to leave the house on time. Maybe it's today. I won't hit snooze. Or I'm not going to grab that phone first thing. Doesn't matter how small it is. What matters is whether you follow through because here's the truth. The first promise you keep or break isn't about discipline. It's about trust and the relationship you have with yourself is built on the same foundation as every other relationship in your life. Trust when you say you'll do something and then you do it. You start building credibility with yourself. quiet inner credibility. That's confidence. That's how self-respect is built daily on. Not loudly, but when you break that first promise, you chip away at something deeper on. It's not just that the workout didn't happen or the journaling didn't get done. It's that a little part of your mind starts to wonder if you're serious on, and that hesitation, that doubt, it follows you into the rest of your day, into your decisions, into your standards, into how you let other people treat you. Now, don't hear what I'm not saying. This isn't about being perfect. Life will throw curveballs. You'll oversleep. You'll miss a day. We're human. But if breaking your word to yourself becomes a pattern, it'll start costing you more than you realize. Because if you can't rely on you, how do you expect anyone else to? That's why winning that first promise, especially when it's small, is so powerful. You don't need to do something massive. You just need to do what you said you would do. If you said 5 minutes of movement, do 5 on. If you said drink water before coffee, drink the water. If you said write one sentence in your journal, write it. And when you do, something shifts on. It's not just pride, it's power. Because now you're not hoping to feel better. You're proving to yourself that you can be counted on. You become the kind of person who finishes what they start, who follows through, who doesn't flinch when it's inconvenient. That mindset travels with you on. You carry it into meetings, conversations, goals. Other people might not know why, but they'll feel it. You'll speak a little clearer on. You'll walk a little taller because you didn't betray the first person you encountered that day. You want to know the secret. The size of the promise matters less than the inconsistency of the follow-through. Start small if you have to, but build the muscle on. And once that becomes your standard, the size of the promise can grow. That's how unstoppable people are built. Not in the big declarations, but in the quiet, only on private commitments that no one else sees. And here's what's beautiful about it. When you win that first promise, you don't need to chase confidence on. You've earned it. You don't need to hype yourself up. You've got receipts. That's a different kind of fire. It doesn't burn out easily on. It doesn't fade when things get hard. It lasts. So tomorrow when you wake up and your mind starts negotiating, it's fine. I'll do it later. Just 5 more minutes. It's not a big deal. Pause. Remember this. That's not a small moment. That's error. The moment on. That's the point where unstoppable starts in winning that promise. That's how you learn to trust the most important person in your life, you. If every day on from the second you wake up, something is trying to take a piece of your mind, a headline, a notification, a request, a conversation that lingers only on a comment that stings, it's all noise. And if you're not intentional, it'll flood your mental space before you've had a chance to think for yourself on. That's why protecting your mental bandwidth isn't just a nice idea, it's a necessity. Because you only get so much focus in a day. You only get so much clarity, and if you waste it on the wrong things, you have nothing left for the right ones. People talk a lot about managing time but time isn't your most valuable resource. Attention is, and where your attention goes, your energy follows. You can be in the right room with the right tools and still make no progress. If your mind is tied up in distractions, you can have talent, goals, and ambition. But if your mental space is cluttered, you'll move in circles instead of forward. The people who stay calm under pressure, who lead with precision on who make sharp decisions, those people don't have more hours than you. They've just learned how to guard their bandwidth on. They've trained themselves to filter the noise so they can hear their own voice. It starts with the inputs on what are you letting into your head before your day even starts. The moment you open your eyes are you choosing what enters your mind, or is it being chosen for you? Because if the first thing you consume is someone else's drama, someone else's agenda on someone else's highlight reel, you've already given up your mental real estate before you've even stepped out of bed. Protecting your bandwidth means being ruthless about what earns your attention. It means asking, does this help me grow? Does this align with my priorities? Or is this just noise dressed up like importance? And sometimes the hardest distractions to spot are the ones that feel productive. Endless scrolling in the name of research, constant email, refreshing, multitasking that turns into mental fog. Just because something's urgent doesn't mean it's valuable. And let me say this, you are not obligated to engage with everything that comes your way. You don't have to respond to every message immediately. You don't have to have an opinion on every issue. You don't have to let every voice into your head on. Not every fire is yours to put out. The more access you give the world to your mind, the more likely you are to lose track of what actually matters. Now, and this isn't about isolation. It's about eyes intention. You still show up, you still stay informed when they're still connected, but you're not controlled. You choose when to open the gates and when to close them. You choose when to engage and when to step back on. That's what creates focus. That's what creates peace. That's what gives you the space to move with clarity instead of chaos on. And here's what happens when you start living like that. Your thoughts get sharper. Your reactions get slower, more grounded. You stop getting pulled into every little thing. You stop leaking energy. You start noticing patterns. You start hearing yourself think on. And once you can hear yourself think, really think, you stop needing everyone else to tell you what to do. You become the one who sets the tone. That kind of mental clarity isn't flashy, but it's powerful. It's the difference between chasing distractions all day and locking in on what actually moves the needle, between being reactive and being proactive, on between feeling overwhelmed and feeling composed. This is one of the reasons why high performers create routines on. It's not just about structure. It's about eliminating decisions. They reduce mental clutter so they can preserve that bandwidth for the things that matter most. It's why some people wear the same outfit every day, why they batch tasks, why they unplug completely for a few hours. They know bandwidth is fuel. Don't waste it. And protecting your bandwidth also means protecting your peace, because when your mind is always crowded, your emotions will be too. And that's when you start snapping at people, making impulsive decisions, doubting yourself, burning out. But when you've cleared space up here, when you've created room to breathe, you operate differently. You listen better. You think deeper. You respond instead of react. That's strength, quiet strength. So if you want to be unstoppable, don't just guard your schedule. Guard your mind on. That's the control center. That's where your power lives. And once you start treating your mental bandwidth like it's sacred, everything else gets sharper. There's a difference between moving fast and moving with purpose, a big one. And too many people are burning themselves out not because they're doing too much, but because they're doing it under pressure instead of with precision. They're living in a constant state of urgency like every task is an emergency. Every notification is a demand. And if they slow down for even a second, everything will fall apart. That's not strength. That's survival mode. When you live like that long enough, your nervous system gets used to chaos. And now stillness feels wrong. Rest feels lazy. Clarity feels unfamiliar. But let me tell you something. Being unstoppable doesn't mean being frantic. It means being focused, being steady. It means knowing how to move deliberately, even when the world is moving fast around you. We live in a culture that praises hustle. More hours, more effort, more grind. But if your effort doesn't have aim, all you're doing is exhausting yourself. Precision beats pressure every time. It's not just about what you're doing, it's why you're doing it. It's how you're doing it. Are you reacting or are you responding? Are you making moves or just staying busy? Moving with precision means you slow down enough to ask the right questions before you jump into action on what's the real goal here. What's actually required of me right now? What can wait? What needs my full attention? Most people never ask those questions. They just dive in, try to do everything at once, and then wonder why they're stuck in a cycle of burnout and inconsistency. When you move with pressure your energy is scattered, your decisions are rushed, your communication gets sloppy, you start making choices just to get things over with, not to get them right on. You say yes to things you should have said no to, you chase things that don't align, and at the end of the day, you're exhausted but not fulfilled, busy but not effective. But when you move with precision, you reclaim your control. You're not just doing things because everyone else is doing them on. You're not speeding up because everyone around you is frantic. You're locked in on your priorities and everything else gets filtered through that on, what deserves your time and what doesn't. What moves the needle and what's just noise. And here's the key. It's not about moving slowly. It's about moving intentionally. There's a difference. Some of the sharpest people I know move quickly, but there's no panic in it. There's calm in their speed. There's clarity in their urgency. That's what precision looks like. It's efficient, not chaotic. It's focused, not frantic. You don't have to prove your value by how stressed you are. You don't have to carry pressure like it's a badge of honor. That's not how we measure effectiveness. The real measure is in how well you can navigate pressure ever without letting it define your pace. This applies to leadership, to relationships, to your personal goals in every area of life. Pressure will try to speed you up. Precision will remind you to stay grounded. Pressure says, hurry up, you're behind. Precision says, breathe. Think on, move when you're ready. One is fear-based. The other is rooted in strength. And if you're someone who's always felt like you're falling behind like you have to go faster to catch up, let me challenge that. Maybe you don't need to speed up. Maybe you need to sharpen up maybe you need to stop trying to do more and start doing what matters most better. Because when you move with precision, you build momentum the right way on you. Make decisions. You don't have to undo later. You show up with confidence instead of anxiety. You execute with clarity instead of chaos. That's what makes you unstoppable. Not how fast you go, but how intentional you are with every step. So before you rush into your next task before you let the pressure get loud, ask yourself this: am I moving because it matters, or am I moving because I'm afraid to pause, that breath, that moment of clarity? That's where real power begins. The most important voice you'll hear all day isn't mine. It's not your boss's, it's not your partner's, it's yours. That voice in your head, that running internal dialogue that never turns off that's the one shaping everything. Your decisions, your confidence, your resilience. And the question is, are you speaking powerfully to yourself or are you tearing yourself down without even realizing it? We all talk to ourselves constantly, but most of us aren't aware of how harsh, how critical, how doubtful that voice becomes, especially when no one's watching. We say things to ourselves we would never say to someone we love. You always mess this up. Why can't you figure this out? You're not doing enough. That kind of language doesn't motivate. It weakens it chips away at your belief, your clarity, your ability to move forward with strength. Now, I'm not talking about fake positivity I'm not saying you have to lie to yourself or ignore what's hard. Life gets messy. We all fall short. But there's a big difference between being honest and being cruel. Powerful self-talk doesn't deny the truth. It just delivers it through the lens of compassion, ownership, and direction. Instead of saying I'm a failure, you say that didn't go the way I wanted, but I'm learning. Instead of I'll never be good enough, it becomes I may not be where I want to be, but I know how to grow. That shift, just a few words, can completely rewire how you show up in the world. Because here's what happens when you start speaking powerfully to yourself. Your nervous system calms down. Your brain stops operating in fight or flight. Your thoughts get clearer. You stop bracing for failure and start planning for progress. You stop shrinking in front of challenges and start stepping into them. And let me tell you something. How you talk to yourself in private determines how you carry yourself in public. If you're constantly doubting yourself behind the scenes, second-guessing every move, criticizing every misstep, then when it's time to speak up, to lead to perform, to show up, you're going to hesitate. You're going to play small. Not because you're small, but because that inner voice convinced you to be on. But when your self-talk becomes powerful, honest, clear, forward-facing, you walk into rooms with a different kind of presence. You don't need it to be the loudest You don't need to prove anything. You know who you are because you've been reminding yourself daily. And here's the part no one tells you. This isn't a one-time fix. This is a daily practice. You have to train your inner voice on the same way you train your body. You have to catch yourself in those moments when the negativity creeps in and say, no on. That's not how we speak in here anymore. You redirect it. You reframe it. You choose your words with intention. It's not about being perfect with on. Some days you'll slip. Some days the old scripts will come back louder than usual. That's okay. The win is in the awareness. The strength is in the comeback. On every time you catch that thought and shift it, you're building mental resilience. You're building identity. You're building momentum from the inside out. On the words you say to yourself when no one's around, they matter. They build your standard. They shape your beliefs on. And belief is what turns action into transformation. So if you want to be unstoppable, not just on your best day, but even on the hard ones, start here on, start with your voice, start with your language, speak to yourself with the same power, clarity, and respect you give someone you're leading on. Because you are leading someone. You're leading you, and the way you speak to yourself, that's where everything else begins. We all mess up on, that's just part of being human. You'll make a plan and break it. You'll set a goal and fall short. You'll say you won't do that thing again. And then on, yeah, you'll do it again. But it's not the failure that defines you. It's what you would do next. That moment after the mistake, the letdown on the disappointment, that's the part that matters most. And too many people stay stuck there, not because they can't move forward, only on, but because they've decided to punish themselves instead of the resetting. Regret is a trap. It convinces you that because you didn't get it right last time on, you don't deserve a fresh start. This time, that because you fell off track, you have to sit in that failure. And so you beat yourself up. You replay what you should have done. Only on you list all the reasons why you always do this, why you never follow through. And the longer you stay in that mindset, the heavier it gets, the harder it becomes to even want to start again. But here's what I want to remind you of. Your future does not care how long you've been stuck on. It only cares that you decide to move right now. That shift from regret to reset is one of the most powerful moves you can make on, because you stop letting your past hold the pen. You stop living like your mistakes are your identity, and instead you start showing up from where you are on, not where you wish you had been. A reset is not about ignoring the mistake. It's not about pretending it didn't happen on. It's about acknowledging it without letting it at you. It's saying, yep, I fell off, but I'm choosing to re-engage. On, I'm choosing to recommit. That's not weakness. That's emotional strength. That's mental leadership. And the people who become unstoppable on, that's exactly what they do. They don't wallow. They adjust. Because here's the truth. No one is consistent every single day. Not in reality. Everyone has off days. The difference is some people spend hours, days, weeks punishing themselves while others hit pause, take a breath, reset their focus on, and get back in the game. And that reset can look simple. Maybe it's taking a walk instead of spiraling. Maybe it's writing down the lesson instead of replaying the failure. Maybe it's just drinking water, taking a deep breath, and deciding, okay, let's start fresh now. And yes, your mind might fight you on it. It might say, but you said this last time, or what's the point? That's the voice of regret, trying to pull you back into the past. Don't let it. Speak back to it. This time is different because I'm different, because now I know better, because now I'm not quitting, I'm resetting. See? When you build a habit of resetting instead of regretting, you start showing up with resilience. You don't take failure personally. You treat it as feedback. You don't let it become a story about who you are. You use it to get sharper, not smaller, and that creates momentum. It's not perfect. It's not flashy. But it's all real, and it's sustainable because it's rooted in grace, all in discipline. You can't be unstoppable if you keep stopping every time things go sideways, and they will go sideways. Life isn't linear. Progress isn't pretty, But when you give yourself permission to reset, to start again without carrying the weight of shame, you stay on motion, and motion is where transformation happens. So the next time you miss the mark, break the habit, fall short of your intention, pause. Don't spiral on. Don't shut down. Don't start telling yourself that old story about how you never change. Just reset. Even if it's the 10th time, even if it's the 100th on, because every time you choose a reset over regret, you're rewriting your future in real time. And that's how you keep moving forward. One strong reset at a time. You don't become unstoppable all at once. You build it one day, one decision, one habit at a time. It's not about being perfect or always getting it right. It's about showing up consistently with intention, owning your morning on, keeping your promises, protecting your mind, choosing precision over pressure, speaking to yourself with power, resetting without shame. These aren't just habits, Leon. They're signals to your future. They say, I'm not waiting to feel ready. I'm becoming ready by how I live on. Because here's the truth. Unstoppable isn't a personality. It's not a title someone gives you. It's a choice you make daily. A mindset you strengthen on a standard you keep, especially when no one's watching. So if you're wondering where to start, start here. Start today. Start with one habit, one shift on one small decision that aligns with who you say you want to be. Then stack another and another. Because eventually on those small daily choices won't just change your day, they'll change